Hi everyone. Today we're gonna talk about the enforcement on chemical products, and it is announced by the European Chemicals Agency. So please be aware this is applicable for Europe. And we're gonna also talk a little bit how it works in the Netherlands. So in the Netherlands, there are two instances that will perform these inspections. On one side, that is the Nederlandse Voedsel- en Warenautoriteit. That is the instance that will mainly look at products that are meant for the consumer, so for the general public. And on the other hand, we have the Dutch inspection, Leefomgeving en Transport, and that mainly focuses on companies that sells business to business. So I made a small timeline for the coming 2 years. And the first big inspection that is announced are the inspection on the PCN notification. And they start from January 2025 up to June in that same year. Then we have another inspection that is announced by ECHA that will mainly focus on the online sales, and that will take up to 1 year. And in 2026, we have an inspection announced for consumer products, and it is mainly focused on e-cigarettes and air fresheners. So it's really particular for these type of products, and that project will also take up to 1 year. And I'll also talk a little bit more about one other project. It is not announced when this inspection will be done, but it will mainly focus on the only representative in Europe, and I will explain in a bit what that actually means. So let's look at the first inspection that is announced, and that will start at the start of the new year 2025, and that is about the PCN notification. On each hazardous product, it should mention a UVI code from 2025. So as you can see here on this image is that the UVI code is a unique code that needs to be notified at the poison centers in the countries where the product is placed. And with that notification, it includes the UVI code, so the unique formulation for that particular product, the classification of that product, and on top of that, the toxicological information that the poison center needs to know to provide the correct information when the poison center gets called in case of something has happened when using the hazardous product. So this UVI code, it is mandatory for all chemical products from 2025. So it is a really, it really makes sense why the inspection announced this check, because it's something new and it is mandatory from 2025. Besides of the check on the UVI codes, they're also going to check the rest of the label, the hazardous information that needs to be mentioned on the label that needs to correlate with the classification of that particular product. Now, where can you find the label requirements and the classification? That's going to be on the safety data sheet. And on the safety data sheet, you have the pictograms mentioned, the signal word, the hazard statement, the precautionary statements, and it all is mentioned in the CLP regulation. So everything can be verified by the safety data sheet. In section 2, you can find the classification of the substance of the mixture. Now, in this case, it's going to be for the mixture because UVI codes are only applicable for hazardous mixtures. And in 2.1, you can find the classification, and in 2.2, you can find all the label elements that is mandatory for that product. In section 3 of the safety data sheet, we'll also mention all the ingredients that will lead up to the classification as mentioned in section 2.1. So the inspection can check based on these ingredients if the classification in 2.1 is correct. So all of this is correlated with each other. So if on the safety data sheet it mentioned the product is hazardous, then a UVI code is mandatory and it should be mentioned on the label, and the label can be checked by verifying the safety data sheet. So all of those three components are important for to be compliant by the CLP regulation and the REACH regulation. So the last, or like another project that starts in the new year of 2025 is the online sales. So hazardous products that's sold online will be checked by the authorities, and what they're going to check is if the online information is in line with Article 48 of the CLP legislation. So it's just the same as if you would buy a product in a physical store. You will look at the product and you check the label and you can see what hazards are. And that same information or similar information should also be provided on the product page of that hazardous product. So it should be directly be displayed on the product page. It cannot be an extra link that you have to click on. It should be immediately available. One of the things that needs to be mentioned on the product page are the hazard statements and the pictograms and the signal word. Besides that, the inspection also said if the restrictions are applicable for the products. So we actually already gave 2 different webinars. One is about CMR substances and the restriction that is related to that is 28 to 30. And another group of products are products with diisocianides with restriction 56 and restriction 74. And restriction 74 is quite new, it's a couple of years. It exists for a couple of years now, and we also gave a webinar on that in the past. And on top of that, they're gonna check the label and classification of the products. If it's incorrect, they can also ask for the safety data sheets, just the same as with the PCR notifications. In 2026, there's another project that will start. It's a focus on 2 different types of products, air fresheners and e-cigarettes. So for the air fresheners, we are looking at classifications that is related to irritation to the skin and the eyes, or it's about the sensitizing substances, so the H317. And on the other hand, we have e-cigarettes that are quite mentioned a lot on the news recently, and they mainly consist out of acute toxic substances, and the inspection is going to look at that if the classification of the substances are correctly and the products if they are correctly classified. They made a really particular mention of packaging. So they're going to check if the package needs a child-resistant fastening, and that is applicable for a particular hazards. So they are mentioned here in this small table. And as you can see, it's mainly about the category 1, so the more severe classifications on acute toxicity, skin corrosion, or aspiration hazards. In the case, if the product is hazardous, or a lot of times they are, then they're also going to check if the UVI code is notified in the countries where the product is placed. Also, yeah, they can check the label and the classification, and they can verify that again with the safety data sheet. So here again, everything is correlated with each other. And then the last project, and that is announced without a timeline yet. It's about inspection on the only representative. And what is exactly an omni representative? It is in the case if a non-EU company wants to put the products on the market in Europe, then that company can appoint an omni representative, and that omni representative is present in Europe and will be responsible for a couple of things, and one of them is the registration of substances. And that is also what the inspection is going to check, if the omni representative did the registration correctly. And the registration is based on the import tonnage per year. So if you're below 1,000 kilos per year, then you need to notify it with a CNL notification. And otherwise, if it's above 1,000 kilos, then you need to notify it with a REACH registration. And also, the omni representative is responsible for the safety data sheets. So please be aware, if a non-EU company provides safety data sheets that is compliant with the country where the company is settled, it doesn't mean that that safety data sheet is compliant with the European legislation. It's possible that the product has more severe classification or less. And also be aware that the language that needs to be mentioned on the label, but also in the safety data sheet, should be in the official language of where the product is placed on the market. So if the non-EU company decides, I want to deliver the product in the Netherlands or France or Germany, then they have to have, the omni representative needs to have the safety data sheet for Germany, for the Netherlands, and for France in the language of that country. So how can you be sure that you're compliant? Well, as you maybe noticed, there are a lot of things to be aware of, and maybe we can see it also in the most common violations. What is what goes wrong? And that is that the classification is incorrect. So based on the ingredients that are present in the product, a different classification should have been mentioned in the safety data sheet and the label, which is based on different rules in the CLP regulation. It also can mean that sometimes the company have not all the label requirements mentioned. So, for example, they forgot the pictogram, or they forgot a signal word, or they forgot the prevention statement, precautionary statements. So that is also one of the more common violations. And what we also see a lot is that languages are missing on the label. As I just mentioned, the official languages of the country where the product is placed should be mentioned on the label. And as lastly, for online web shops, we see a lot that the information is not complete. So that maybe you can only get to the correct information if you have to click through the product page. Well, that is incorrect, because you need to immediately see it. And additionally, we think that in the upcoming inspection, that one of the more common violations will be that products have no UVI code mentioned. So that's really easy for inspection to check, because they only have to look at the label and they see no UVI code. And on the other hand, they can also check if the UVI codes are actually notified with at in the countries where the product is placed on the market. Well, who is responsible for all of this? So for online sales, it's the webshop owner that needs to display the information correctly. For the product labeling and for the safety data sheet, the person that is responsible is the company that puts the product on the market. And for the PCN notification, it's a little bit more complicated, but a lot of times it's the company that is responsible for the notification, so the company that puts the product on the market, but can also be the distributor or the reseller. And if you want more information on that, so who the duty holder exactly is, we have a webinar given in the past, so you can find that on YouTube, or you can always ask us. So here's our contact information. You can send us an email, or you can call us, or have an online meeting with us if you need any more information on this subject, or if you want us to provide a safety data sheet for you. So thank you all for listening, and hopefully see you next time.